All right. Thanks for coming, guys. So the idea of the call is to give a live walkthrough of the TWAP execution tool that Grant has built. And I think everyone's already familiar with Perpetual Protocol if you guys are here, but in case you're not, Perpetual Protocol is a DEX that enables on-chain perpetual futures. We are launched on Optimism, and under the hood, we use a virtual AMM model, which is similar to the Uniswap AMM model to execute perps. So it's kind of built on top of Uniswap v3 and inherits the principles of concentrated liquidity and AMMs that Uniswap v3 has. So the TWAP tool, this is kind of like the first iteration of the tool. And I'll let Grant introduce himself and the tool that he's built, basically.
Thank you. Yeah, so start with my background. So I'm a quant dev. I currently work for a small crypto quant trading firm in Sydney. I always started as a software engineer at a startup, and then I went to work in algo trading at an investment bank. Realized that was probably a bit too slow for my liking, and started trading on my own programmatically. That's how I got into crypto. So Perp was actually one of my first platforms that I traded on. I think I was early adopter, and our firm actually did about 20 to 30% of Perp V1 volume. That's like all-time volume. So we're pretty heavy traders on Perp V1. It's also one of the reasons why we know the team. Not so much on we're also using Perp V2 quite heavily, both on maker and taker side. So just not as significant volumes as we did on Perp V1. Yeah, so the TWAP tool is essentially it's pretty straightforward, and it is the first iteration of something that could be extended quite significantly, I suppose, in any way that we'd like to see fit, I suppose. So it's pretty straightforward. It's actually like an algo execution tool where you can sort of add any strategy you'd like to add. If you're familiar with programming, I think the interfaces you'll find when you clone the repo and play with it a bit, you'll find it's pretty straightforward. There are some things that are quite static, and it's essentially the execution steps, not the strategy, right? So originally it was thought of as like you can think of it like as a simple TWAP. There's also a spread strategy that we run. You can use it for things such as running funding rate or any discretionary position. You can choose whether you want to hedge or unhedge or no hedge. It's pretty straightforward, but you do have to, I suppose, read the README, understand it, play with it a bit, and sort of just test it out. But be careful with it. So it's sort of disclaimers like you risk your own funds, and it's probably not fully bug proof, right? So play with it a bit, run it in such a way with a small amount of funds as you would normally run it, just to make sure that it's to your liking and it's everything that you expect. So yeah, that's pretty much it for that.
Great, yeah, thanks for the intro, Grant. I think to begin with, we can just do a live walkthrough of how you can actually set it up onto your system. And then we can just sort of execute. So we can use it in two ways, as Grant mentioned, either to just TWAP a large position broken into smaller pieces, or to execute like a single arbitrage opportunity. So if you can just do like a live walkthrough, and then happy to take questions in the end.
Yep. Okay, so I will share my screen. One sec. All right, so it won't. This will probably take like up to 10 minutes to demonstrate like a full walkthrough, exit and entry and exit, as well as like showing a few things that it guards and takes into consideration. Won't be looking at the code, just like the config and stuff like that. So let's start with actually cleaning the repo. So if you guys are familiar with programming, it should be pretty straightforward, but first thing we do, find the repo. I already have it, so yeah. Yep. So this command you guys probably won't have, but open the tool. Sorry, one sec. I'm just going to remove this and close this because that's the one with my private keys. Yep. So first thing we do is we would copy this env, and these are fake, like just ordered, like online generated hashes. So it's you won't get anything from it. Yeah, so the first thing we do is open and like copy the contents of the example into the end file, save it, and then update your private key, Binance API key. Firstly, currently only supports Binance. It was originally built for FTX. So the FTX code is there, but obviously we know what happened there. So it supports Binance futures now. So Binance API key, secret, and these two are optional. Your Optimism HTTP RPC URL and your WebSocket RPC URL. So I'm going to do that on my other screen. So, also, if I'm talking too fast, probably just let me know because I tend to do that. Okay, cool. So I've now put my keys and stuff in, and yeah, I won't be opening that again. There's not much in those wallets anyway, but yeah. The next thing to do is look for the config file. So the config file will be in the source, and this is essentially your strategy parameters, everything you want to do. It should be relatively easy to understand, but I mean, just ask, I suppose, if it doesn't. So in terms of markets that we want to trade, we just specify at the first level. If you guys aren't aware, this is a JSON file. The first level is your market, and then your second level has a multitude of things. So we have the hedge specifications, execution strategy, and then your total notional and perp direction. They're not all the same, and if you look at the code, you'll see what the interface is actually like. So for example, the execution strategy has these parameters: strategy, min, spread, and order notional, whereas the spread strategy has those parameters, whereas the TWAP strategy has parts and period. And the bot will tell you whether if you put something wrong and it doesn't understand. So that's yeah. So it won't run anything obviously that it doesn't understand. Yeah, there's a few extra parameters like poll interval, hide size, close only, and they should be well defined in the README, I think. Yeah, somewhere. Maybe in the actual one of the blog posts itself. But yeah, should be pretty understandable. So I'm going to change a few parameters and we're going to start running. Yeah, so firstly, close only should be closed since I don't have any positions open. I will trade Aave and ETH. I will turn this one to false. So Aave no hedge and ETH hedge. Yeah, let's just do that. Yep, I'll set the period a bit lower. The period you'll see is like some sort of string, and it will tell you if it doesn't understand. Essentially, use M for minutes, I actually don't remember. H for hours and D for days, and a number for that. It should be pretty straightforward. Yeah. Yeah. So let's run it in. Since we don't have that much time, I'll run 2 parts in 2 minutes. So this means it will execute a leg each minute. Okay. Min spread, I will set it to, let's set it to 0, so it doesn't execute. All right, let's run it. So in order to run, after you've set that up, after you've got your .env and your config file, it's simple. It's just npm start. Oh, actually, this won't work. But first we have to do yarn install. And then, so install the dependencies, and then we can run it. So I'll open, I've sort of got to open this, then middle center third, and then open the last one. It's the right third. So this might be a little small, but I have my Binance side, my Perp side open, and my actual strategy here. So the TWAP you'll find actually executes immediately. The first leg executes immediately, and then it'll wait another minute before it executes next. So this position is, we specified 200 total notional. So the first leg is half, and we specified 2 parts. So $100 for the first leg, and you'll find that Binance is equally hedged on the other side. The spread strategy should be pretty straightforward, but essentially, if the lower and look at the calculations, but it just trades on an arb essentially, and the lower the figure, so hence negative, it will essentially trade at an unfavorable price. So it's obviously higher the better, right? So you'd probably specify something like 5 or 10, and it's in basis points. Yep. So Perp executed it fully. Now the second minute has come up. I probably should have said a little longer to demonstrate some other things, but Perp has finished. So we have $200, 0.11, and 0.11 on our other leg. Our Aave position, because the spread condition hasn't been met, won't be executing. So let's lower that so that it meets, and we'll see that it won't hedge on the other side. I wanna mention, and I probably should have tested this, but I'm sorry, I probably should have ran this did this while it was running, but it will also understand manual intervention. So if you do decide to place a trade manually, then it will recognize that a manual trade has been placed, and the hedge will still pick up like the other side. So say, for example, you decide to, half your position has been executed, so we're at the $100 mark, and we decide to open another $40 long, meaning opening a position. So it'll be 140 on our east side. The hedge side will then open a $40 short on the other side. Obviously, if the hedge is not specified, it won't open the position. Yeah, 919. Okay. I will just lower the parameters so that the spread condition is met, just so that we have 2 positions open and we can close them. So it seems like -10 would be sufficient. So this is unfavorable pricing, unfavorable arb. So we can stop that and then run it again. It will recognize that the TWAP strategy is complete, so it won't run the TWAP leg or the TWAP token, but it will still try to run the token that's incomplete. Okay, so yep. So here's the thing. So obviously the execution condition is met since I lowered the spread very low, and so it will execute twice, I imagine, because the spread condition will be met twice. So we're still relatively naive, and that's why you've got to be it doesn't take into consideration a couple of things such as gas estimates, stuff like that. And there's a lot of improvements that can be made essentially. So, but world's your oyster. You can sort of play with it, and if you're a programmer, develop it yourself or open a pull request, and yeah. So open two consecutive executions because it was met both times. So the position should now be fully open, and we shouldn't have a hedge on the other side. Yeah. So there we go. Cool. Yeah. Now I will demonstrate the closing just for completion. So the closing, we just set the close only to be true. So hide size, if you guys aren't aware, will just randomize your position so that you can sort of hide your position between 0.9 and 1.1, a multiple. So it attempts to be a little bit smart about it, like it's algo training technique, I suppose, but very naive. Poll interval is how often it iterates between checks, essentially runs. Okay, cool. Let's do this. So you'll find that so I'm going to show you something. So I've set parameters incorrectly, and you'll see what happens. So I've set close only to true on both tokens. And it will say, sorry, you guys probably can't see this. It will say failed to run, position state, wrong direction. Perp is long and direction is also long. Yeah, so what that means is your perp direction is, we have two long positions, yet we're trying to close. So it should be the opposite direction. I probably should change one of these to be short, but yeah, anyway. So let's run that. I've changed to short. We will find that Aave execution is not met. The perp first leg is met, so it will decrease the position by 100. We'll see here. Once I go down. It is not. It has. It's just slow. Now I'll do something before the time is up at 45 seconds. So I will attempt to manually decrease my position on Binance, let's just say, by 0.02. So I will buy it, 0.02, let's just double checking. So it'll go 0.03 on Binance, if you guys can see that. And hopefully the perp side will decrease by 0.02. It just takes time to reflect on the front end, but yeah, you'll see it says downsizing perp short. So now it's hedged again, fully hedged again. So you guys can execute on either side. You could have done it on perp, you could have done it on Binance, and it will, yeah, now the rest of it's met. The TWAP as time is up, so it will close that position and this position will be closed. Yeah. And Aave is, the spread condition has been met, so it's not going to close. Anyway, that should be fine. I'm going to leave that open. Oh, it's actually being met right now, so that should close. But yeah, that's pretty much it. Let me see if there's anything else. Yeah, no, that's pretty much it. Pretty straightforward. Like, do have a read, do play with it, but also have a read at the logs. If you can read the code, maybe read the code, and try use it in a way that you would use it with a large size, because that's the point of an algo execution tool, is that I suppose when you want to open like 100K position, you obviously don't want to well, first you probably can't market order it, or you can with slippage, but you don't want to do that since you'll swing the market and you'll be executed at an unfavorable price essentially. So you want to cut up your order into 10 legs over like 5 hours or so, or you want to only enter in at a favorable spread, a favorable arb. but which you hope will be met across a day's worth, and you're happy to run it across a day. This is what that tool is useful for. So it is a starter, and there's a lot of improvements that can be made. But yeah, sort of play with it, use your imagination, and yeah, that's it for me.
Cool. Thanks a lot. Yeah, I think happy to answer any questions or suggestions. Obviously, this is a pretty cool tool to begin with. You do have to keep some stuff in mind. For example, if you were TWAPing a large position, which is fully hedged on Binance, there is still gas costs, funding payments that need to be considered, which the tool doesn't take into account yet. Also, if it's a leveraged position, there is still a risk of liquidation. So there are still these other factors that need to be taken into account. But the idea was to just share this with the community, see the interest, and also the suggestions on what you guys would like to see next. Yeah, and thanks a lot again, Grant.
I just got a question regarding gas. So this order, if you cut up a larger order in, like, say 10 smaller orders, you still have to pay gas in every single one of those 10 clips?
Yes, you will be. Regardless of, it's every one of them is a separate trade. That's an improvement that we can make, is by checking how much we can take, right? Like up to our amount, saying we accept 5 basis points slippage. How much can we trade? That improvement can be made. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, one other question actually. So basically, you can set the spread at which you execute against where Binance is trading, or like it's basically only Binance that it's looking at the moment?
Yeah, right now only Binance is supported.
Yeah.
Again, like that's something we can add other exchanges, well, like as a feature request, I suppose.
Yeah. So, but basically, how I understand is that you can enter a spread, or like a TWAP order, where Perp executes buy orders only if it's trading under or like at a certain discount or premium towards where Binance is trading. Is that correct?
Yes.
Okay. All right. That's.
Yeah. But it would, pretty much. There's no complex sort of. It's literally it just looks at the current price. Compares the market mid, actually.
Yeah. Okay. Okay. Thanks.
Although, actually, no, I'll take that back. It does actually consider. So, it takes into consideration. It doesn't compare the market and mid. It takes into consideration your trade size as well. So it will look at the liquidity in the market, and that's the spread difference. So, say for example, you want your order size is 10K. It will take into consideration your slippage on both legs. But obviously, Binance, it's an order book, so it's pretty instantaneous. But it'll look at the liquidity at that instant and see what the slippage is. It's after the fact, so it takes into consideration the slippage.
So, quick question here regarding open source. What kind of contributions are you most keenly looking for?
I don't know. I'm not I'll be honest, this is probably my first open source contribution. And it's not I'm happy to just look at anything. I don't expect that it would take a lot of my time, and I'll be honest, I probably don't want it to. And also, it is still this was probably one of the first most naive iterations that we did at our firm. But like when you work at a prop shop, they sort of, we sort of don't like too much to give away too much stuff. I'm sure some of you guys are aware. So I'm happy to look at anything. But if it's, if it's a contribution, it's like, yeah, it's not our stuff. So yeah, whereas adding on for us to add our own stuff is probably unlikely and something we have to talk about, with the rest of my team and stuff like that. So contribution wise, anything sort of works. Yeah. Maybe that, yeah. Does that answer your question? I'm not sure for that.
Yeah, it absolutely answered the question. Just one follow-up question. Like, what's the amount of money you've run through this code? Because you say it's a starter. You should imagine the largest size. Just want to get a sense of what kind of confidence would you put in it?
Yeah, I would. So after, like, if I was a user and I would firstly test out exactly how I want it, because that's the thing, like everyone sort of uses tools a bit differently and you can't test every flow. And trading, trading bots are very stateful. So I'm certain, and like, this is not me just, I'm being cautious here and saying like, I'm certain there may be a flow where, yeah, there's definitely flows where there are bugs, like there could be a bug. So you need to be, and this is why we built it like this. Like it's very simple, right? It's something that you need to watch. It's something you run on your local machine rather than running on AWS EC2 instance, long running process where you can sort of ignore. That is like proposed as another iteration. Like the second iteration would be a long running bot. That's like continuously being funding or something like that. But for it's a lot to manage, and users would be like shocked, or people who aren't as familiar with like trading, programmatically trading, when something goes wrong, it could affect them greatly. So this is something you would run locally and you'd monitor over it and see if something goes wrong, and so that you can react accordingly, right? Because if something goes wrong and you're watching it, it's not going to go drastically wrong. Of course, if your order size is huge, that one leg may be it might make a difference. But I would say confidently, after testing it the way I want to test it, given obviously market liquidity, not taking into consideration market dynamics and saying like the slippage is huge on a position, but I would do 100K. I would do 100K for one token, say for example, because when we ran funding on it originally, those were the sizes that we did run. Obviously our bots were a little bit more complex, but it wasn't too different from this when we first, like, for an MVP, and we were trading that size. But it's of course, I'm sure the disclaimer is like, yeah, definitely test it out, run it to, do everything that you would normally do or you would like to do essentially, and make sure that it goes as expected. Yeah. I will say, and maybe I'll just make this disclaimer now, currently there is a gas estimation problem. So don't go away after this and run it immediately, because gas is expensive. Like as in for some reason, and I think it's to do with SDK code, but unconfirmed, because this bot uses a Perp SDK. It currently, like a trade will cost $3 to $4. So don't go away and execute right now. Let us fix that and do some more intelligent gas estimation, and then use it. Yeah. So maybe if you're wanting to use it, maybe monitor the channels, and we'll mention once we've sort of fixed that, or yeah.
So, Grant, are you actually working on the protocol itself as well? This is like something that shows how to use it a little bit more, or?
Wait, sorry, what do you mean? Working on the protocol?
Yeah, do you work, do like the dev work for like the Perp.com protocol and all of that behind it?
No, this is just the grants that that I was given.
Oh, nice. Thank you.
Yeah, I don't work with Perp other than actually being a user. So like we trade on the platform ourselves.
I missed the intro. My apologies.
Oh, okay, right. Yeah. Any other questions? You can ask me anything. I have a tendency to give away stuff more if you're curious about like strategy or whatever.
Can you give a little bit more about that spread that you're trying to encapsulate with this strategy? Can you give a little bit more color around that?
The spread. It's the spread strategy.
Yes.
Okay. Yeah. So this, I mean, the spread trade. I did mention. Someone else asked the question, and I mentioned that it takes in consideration the your effective slippage instantaneous. So that occurs. So it takes into consideration the prices that it uses are effectively the perp. How do I explain this? So you can do like a core static swap to determine what your effective trade price is. That's what it does. So if you have a 20K position order that you want to do, and the price is at, you know, ETH is like 1600, and it will effectively be like a $10 slippage, right? So you execute at, you know, 1610, for example. That is your perp exchange. So I guess, yeah, your perp side, that would be your perp price. And Binance, say for example, 20K order size would be, and it's sitting at 1620, and 20K as a sell would be, you know, 1618. So the calculation itself, you'll find in the README, it's your effective short price minus your effective long price, divided by the average of the two prices. And that's in basis points, right? That's a natural, well, sorry, that's a natural number. So like, yeah, it's just a simple spread calculation. Yeah.
Okay, thank you. Yeah, I was just curious, and also wanted conversations to keep going. Also, I'm very curious, how do you, what are your ideas on what would be a sort of an optimal way to encapsulate gas optimization regarding a TWAP? Because basically you don't want to get in cheap, getting a sort of trade-off between slippage and gas, because the gas does tend to become more of a play, more of an element than when you would do this on like a centralized exchange, because there obviously your fees are just volume based, and here it's transaction based.
Well, I would actually say that the gas, especially with the Bedrock update, is fairly insignificant. It's on a fraction, like it's a fraction of your exchange fee now. So I would, before, if you had smaller trade size, it would definitely need to be considered. I don't know, within your strategy parameters, whether it be just like widening the parameters, you know, to capture more spread, say for example, or even just be a calculation in your potential profit or whatever in the strategy. I would say, yeah, because like gas should be 10 to 20 cents, and I imagine, you know, if you were to use this bot, you won't be doing clips of like a few $100s. You might be doing a few K. I know that the spread or the slippage for unless it's for ETH and BTC, but for the other markets, you know, a 2K trade might get you a few bips slippage. So I think because of Bedrock, I actually think I wouldn't even take into consideration with my in my actual parameterization anymore.
Okay. All right, because some of the smaller volume markets might slip a little bit more aggressively, even.
Yeah, that's true. I haven't looked at the small ones recently. But you know, if you know, like if it's like a few $100s, then it still would be a small amount, but it's not insignificant, definitely. Yeah, I would probably just widen the spread perhaps, like like rather than considering what the gas, what I guess the estimated cost per transaction, like 10 cents or whatever, I would just widen the spread by, the fraction basis point or two or something like that, depending on trade size, if it does make a difference into your trades. So yeah. I think we were meant to talk about. There's no more questions. I think we're meant to talk about potential features expansion. Yeah, so I would mention, and if you guys are interested, like essentially was a first iteration, and there were more to come, I suppose. But other ideas of things that could be improved. Well, there's a whole range of things that could be improved, like smart execution and everything. But a few of the ideas were long running funding arb, right? This was, I think originally the interest, it was in sort of like a long running process where you specify, how much funding you'd like to capture, right? And, it only enter and exit positions when it's in your favor. It sounds really good. And I know a lot of traders, crypto traders in general, maybe firms are definitely interested in as well, but also like maybe like individual traders, who trade big, large size, funding is definitely a strategy. I will say, yeah, so this was definitely something interesting. It is, as I mentioned before, with the long running process, there's a lot to consider and things can go wrong. So for users that aren't I suppose technology is not the word, but just like who are used to the programmatic trading world, like it can cause more headache than good, I suppose. But regardless, this is something that a lot of people are interested in, and the bot has been built to go that way. So the execution strategies are for, or like a step for long running fund, like a funding our process where you specify, okay, I want to capture 2 basis point, like a 1 basis point of funding an hour, right? But I only want to slowly enter the position. So you specify, I have a 100K position, like a 100K total notional that you like to trade. I only want to enter markets that are where I can catch a basis point an hour, and only at an execution where the spread is in my favor. So I think if you guys can see where that's going, it can be pretty good. But firstly, parameterization can be harder said than done. But also like it's a much bigger task to work on. But yeah, this is where the bot has originally sort of the direction it was going in. Yeah, more execution strategies was another feature expansion and sort of the way that was being built for. If you guys are aware of algo trading, like iceberg, stealth, stuff like that, like stuff where any large position needs, or a VWAP, any large position needs to be cut up in intelligent ways, or more like integrations, right? Like these are all things that can be done. Yeah, just some ideas. I think that should be it with the questions.
Yeah, I think that's it. With the
Actually, I've got another one. So basically, since it's looking at Binance prices and the impact on Perp, would you be able to use this order, just leave it as a dormant sort of arbitrage order. Basically setting like 100 basis points, 200 basis points to basically, if there's a big arb opportunity, to basically always have open orders sitting, or you need to specify end time and these kind of things?
No, you can do that, but how it's currently built, so that's an interesting idea, and there's value there, I suppose. You need to specify the direction, right? Currently it takes in the direction, it doesn't take in either direction. So firstly, it will only it will only execute an arb in that direction that you specified. Secondly, I guess you can do that if you run it. I mean, if you guys are willing, like you run it locally, wherever you decide to run it, but that would be like a more of a long running process. And if you guys have been familiar with running stuff on local machine and stuff, it doesn't stay alive. Like you go to sleep and you wake up and it's like, I don't know, maybe your internet connection died and the bot would have stopped or something like that. So technically you can do that, but it's not made. If you were to run it on a instance, then like it'll stay alive and very much so probably execute that or arb if it ever came.
Okay.
Yeah.
Thanks.
I can concur that if you would run this all the time, 24/7, this would be a bit different in setup, I think.
Yeah, most definitely. Yeah, and like there's a lot of things, right? Like it wouldn't be polling. Firstly, it'd probably be WebSockets. You need to set up the infra. That isn't necessarily too hard, but visibility can also be a problem because it's like if you're away, you're not looking at your instance all the time, so you need some sort of notification tool. These are all things that are necessary for a long running process. Yeah.
All right.
Are you running into a lot of the gas fee issues as well recently? This is something that's a bit more of a technical question, but I just don't.
Gas fee.
Running thing on Optimism right now. So I think
just in general on Optimism, not Perp. It might not be Perp related. Is that what you're asking?
Yeah, I'm getting. Pull that up. Just you're running this TypeScript code against that. Yeah. So basically, the replacement fee too low.
Okay. Yeah. So I actually, not me specifically, but another guy is working on these things in our firm. And yes, he has been doing that. So he's actually had to do like specific calculations depending on the contract and stuff like that. He's been playing with the max fee and the max priority fee. But also for us, it's about competitiveness, right? Like it's like what position do you want to be in the block, right? And that makes a difference. And so yes, we have, but it's always an optimization between like how much gas do we want to pay, and like in the actual trade that we're trying to make. So that's always an issue. It's not necessarily Optimism right now. We've always sort of tried to be on top of that essentially. But that's not really more of a concern for like a competitive higher frequency strategy. Whereas a low frequency, like if we're running anything low frequency, that's not a concern. Like we just let the others estimate gas essentially. Others RS or others JS or anything estimate gas. Just set the default. Yeah.
Thank you. Yes. So some of the challenges there, are not really particularly for this context, but yes, for lower frequencies.
Yeah. Hi. Yeah. Yeah, that makes high frequency position in the block is what makes a big difference. yeah,
Do
because
you
it
have
makes a
someone
difference to whether or not you get hit on slippage. Sorry.
Do you guys have someone looking at that more in a dedicated way, like MEV related stuff?
Not MEV, but just trading. Even on Perp, like we have to like do calculations to see what gas we want to spend and see if it's actually worth spending that, right, to make the trade.
Yeah.
Otherwise, a lot of the transactions fail. Yeah. Yeah. So I'm not working on that, but yeah, another guy is.
All right. Thanks a lot, guys. I saw some people had joined a little bit later, so we'll have the recording for you guys to see if you want to check this out later. And obviously, would love some feedback on just in terms of prioritization. What features would you find the most useful? So would love to take that into account. Yeah, that's about it.
Yeah, I think there's if there's a channel. I don't know what the best way, and Anisha will probably mention this, but like if we were to discuss stuff like or features or bugs most importantly, like that's like obvious. I don't know if the Discord channel that they currently have is the best, but yeah, I think they'll I'll be on.
Everyone's on Discord anyway, so we do have a dedicated channel to this on Discord. But also just feel free to reach out to me and on Telegram. So yeah, I can just move that along or get your questions answered.
I might not be very responsive unless you tag me, but yeah, I will attempt. I'll definitely be on top. Someone will message me. It could be Anisha, so yeah.
So sorry, I missed the intro, but Grant is your actual name, yeah?
Grant, yes.
Absolutely perfect name for getting grants from protocols.
Yeah, Grant got a grant. Yeah. Made for grant. So this is my first grant, and maybe my only one. So
All right. Thanks a lot, guys.
All right. Yeah,
Thank
thank you so
you.
much for your time.
thank you for your questions. Yep.
Bye.